Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Wow, that's loud. I'm going to wake everybody up. All right. Thank you so much for having us. We're thrilled to be here to hopefully share with you guys some of the lessons that we have learned at SendGrid as we have scaled our business. We're a 6-year-old company. Just a quick read of the room. How many people have heard of SendGrid? Do you all know? Oh, I love that. That's fabulous. We're a Colorado-based company, so you never know when we come to Silicon Valley how many of the crew here will know us. We opened an office down in Redwood City just a few months ago, but we have been very fortunate and very blessed to have enjoyed a great deal of success and have gone through a lot of this scaling. We're now at about 300 people. We have about 32,000 paying customers now, and we're sending about 20 billion emails per month on behalf of those customers. And so sense of scale, we're touching about 1.5 billion unique email recipients every month, which is about 75% of the world's email, anybody that has an ID anywhere on the planet. And that's about as many emails per day as Twitter sends out tweets. I mean, so it's at crazy scale, and we've learned a great deal through that process. We're sort of now past that 0 to 50 million, figuring things out, getting the company launched, and finding that product market fit for us. And then you get to stage 2 of how do you get from 50 million through to the IPO stage. And of course, then there's lots of excitement beyond that. I'm curious, again, reading the room, how many people here work for companies that are still in startup phase, trying to get traction, 0 to 50 million? Just so I can get a read here. Okay, a fair number, that's great. And how many are in the stage that we're in, where I need to compare notes with you, from 50 to 100 million? Okay, fewer. I'm going to come find you guys tonight at the party. And how many are working for companies that are well north of 100 million or greater? Fewer. We can learn a lot from you guys, too. Okay, terrific. Well, I'll share with you guys what we have learned in our first 6 years. I hope for the vast majority of the room that raised their hand on the 0 to 50, that some of these lessons will be relevant and applicable, because as we all know, entrepreneurship takes a village. This is hard, what all of us are trying to do. See if this works. So the first thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, we're going to talk about 3 things today. One is really about business model stuff. The second is about people. And the third, really about financials. A lot of the benefit of going this late in the day after you guys have heard a lot of talks is I'll get to build on a lot of themes that you've heard over the course of the day. I'm spinning it as building on as opposed to repeating. So hopefully you'll go with building. But the first one, how many of you guys have heard about this phrase that Andreessen put out many years ago, made famous, the product market fit? Product market fit. Everybody? Yeah. Product market fit is this awesome nirvana state. When you get to product market fit, you are living, your business is living in a world that is a massive market in which you are solving a very painful problem in a very unique way with your solution, and all you can do is barely keep up with demand. You can't hire salespeople fast enough or support people to take the calls. You can't ship enough product out the door. That's sort of Mark's definition of product market fit. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when SendGrid got started, for all of you that are in that 0 to 50 million phase, it didn't feel like that in the early days. Is that true for anybody else here that's in the 0 to 50, where you're like, yeah, that's a point on the horizon that we all want to march towards, but it's a long ways out. We got a lot of work to do and a lot of checking and learning to go do as we get there. And so my suggestion would be, in the near term, I'd put an intermediate milestone out there for you, which is to focus on product buyer fit first as the intermediate step on your way to that product market fit. And that product buyer fit is really about understanding that buyer persona. And we heard about that earlier during the monetization talk, about the importance of understanding exactly who it is that you are serving with what solution. And by the way, very importantly, that person having the ability to pay you money for solving that problem. It's a very important caveat, and I think a lot of early young businesses don't get that focus right. Don't focus enough on that specific problem and how you get somebody to pay you money for it that can. And so in our case at SendGrid, our founders happened on a very specific problem, which was anybody building an application, mobile, web, cloud, whatever, had to go set up an email infrastructure to do simple things like confirm a user, be able to do a password reset, order confirmations, things like that. And they would then have to go set up an email infrastructure that would then send out emails on behalf of that application and make sure it didn't get caught in the spam trap. A bunch of stuff they had zero interest in dealing with. And so our founders said, I'm going to solve that very specific problem for that very specific buyer, which is the developer, and we are going to really deeply understand that buyer and where we can find them, how we can educate them, how we can onboard them, make sure that we have a free option so they can get started, a price point where they can put their credit card down and start using the service from day one. And we hired a whole fleet of developer relations people. We hired people and put them into the development communities to educate them. We'd go to hackathons and universities so that they could learn about SendGrid and this very specific problem that we were solving for that very specific buyer. And that maniacal focus on our buyer and that product buyer fit, I believe deeply, is a huge part of why SendGrid now has 32,000 paying customers and 2 times that and using the service in the free base. So it's been a remarkably successful model for us. We're not unique in this. You can go back to the beginning of SaaS with Salesforce.com. For those of you who are around for that, they didn't start by selling big deals to enterprise sales organizations and talking to the VP of sales. No, they had a product that was super simple and did SFA really well. Salesforce automation. I will track for the sales rep their opportunities, and they can move them through stages and just track information. It's very basic. But that thing lit up and went through, and that was their buyer, was that salesperson, that individual. So product buyer fit, I would say, when you go back tomorrow, I'm going to give you a lot of actionable, hopefully, ideas. When you go back tomorrow, really think about, have we nailed our buyer exactly? We know exactly who they are, where we can find them, how we serve them, and we give them a super simple, easy way to onboard. And not have it be someone that they can influence. I can ask somebody else to buy the product, but in this age of internet distribution, the person you are targeting should be able to buy the product. Once you've gotten to that, you'll start to see some acceleration in your business. You'll start to have some traction. The next key lesson for us at SendGrid was truly listening to our customers, because at that point you have all sorts of optionality. You're going to have the option, because your business is doing well, to go build lots of new products. You can come up with all sorts of whiz-bang cool new features, new things, and your product management teams and engineers will have ideas and roadmaps that could last you for 7 years. And I beg you, do not do those. Go and talk to your customers deeply and listen. And listen, there's the Simon and Garfunkel quote from a song of a man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest. Don't do that. Don't be the product-centric people, because as people in Silicon Valley here, we often do this. We're really excited about our products and our next new features. Listen to the customers. I think SendGrid did this extremely well, remarkably well, in the early days, and it turned out that what our customers wanted actually had nothing to do with software. The next thing they wanted from us was actually a lot of hand-holding. They wanted services. They wanted somebody to help them actually set up this email stuff, and how does this actually integrate to my app, and can you have people there who will be on the phone to deal with my technical support questions? And so we massively overinvested in building out the services side to make sure that we would be successful. So in the SaaS, the software as a service, we oriented a lot of the energy towards the service end of SaaS. If you look at, these are our numbers. It's remarkable. For a company of 300 people, we had less than half a dozen salespeople, and we're at a pretty good scale and run rate in revenue. But you'll see the investment we made on the people side was factors, and frankly, it's why we're just announcing today our second major product in the marketing arena. It took us 6 years because of this. We had focused so heavily on the services side, but I'll tell you, it's why we have established such a strong leadership position in what we do. We are factors larger, and typically an order of magnitude larger than any of our competitors in what we do. So this has been really important to us. So that's sort of the business model-y stuff. Let me switch to the people. I'll go through these quickly because I think that the Eventbrite talk was brilliant, and this will just reinforce a few of the points that Julia had made. One, building a team is so critical as you're scaling, and that sense of belonging, that middle thing in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs that Julia was referring to, is absolutely critical. And she talked a lot about the importance of culture. At SendGrid, I think if you were to ask anyone who has been associated with SendGrid, they would tell you a big part of our success to date has been how unique and differentiated our culture is. It's based on a core set of values. We call them the 4 H's: happy, hungry, humble, and honest. And there are very specific bullets underneath each one of those that are guideposts for all of our employees that come in the door when they're making decisions on a daily basis. And you will hear in meeting rooms, okay, hey, Dan, I got to give you some honest H feedback about that presentation. Or, hey, we got to hit this deadline, guys. We got to show the hungry H now. And it comes out in conversations. That's how you know it's truly ingrained in the fabric of your company, that culture is not going anywhere. And I would also ask you, in terms of the actionable stuff, when you think about your culture, make sure that that there are lots of people out there who would find it abhorrent, who would hate your culture. Because if you haven't done that, then I would argue it's too motherhood and apple pie. Yeah, it's all good, but it can't be for everyone. By definition, a great culture can't be for everyone. Ours, I would argue one of the things that's most distinctive in our culture is that humble H. And, there are a lot of folks that I've worked with in my career who are phenomenally talented that would hate our humble H culture. It is a we, not I. And you take that to Wall Street, that's not going to work. There are places in the world, you just got to make it distinctive. And so I would just ask you to think about making it distinctive. The other thing that you'll see in this picture, you saw it in Julia's pictures, you'll see these, the T-shirts, right? Like we give out 10,000 of these SendGrid T-shirts every single year at all these events that we go to. You can come to the after party tonight that we're sponsoring. You'll get some there. But this thing that I'm wearing, this hoodie, is only given out to our employees. And it's standard issue. When you arrive at SendGrid as an employee, you get a laptop and you get this hoodie. And the reason we do that is if you think about the greatest teams in the world, and that's what you're trying to build, a great team, they have uniforms. Whether it's a professional sports team or the military, you get a uniform. And the reason you get a uniform is because you immediately want to get that person joining your team to realize they are now part of something bigger than themselves. And you want what they are wearing to remind them of that. And it is a great way to remind them, hey, you now play for this team on the front of the jersey, not on the name on the back, as the cliche goes in coaching. And that is a very powerful thing. And we have found that to drive, as Julia mentioned, that belonging, that sense of belonging to something bigger than yourself, and getting to why, that's a big part of it. So that's been hugely helpful for us on the culture front and how we get people feeling like they're part of a team. As you scale and you got that product buyer fit and things are rocking along, you will invariably have to start hiring, and hopefully for all of you, hiring a lot. Now, when you do that, I would implore you to change the way that your companies think about hiring. Because most of the people that we encounter, when they think about hiring, they think of it as an obligation. Man, I got my day job, but I got a full schedule of interviews to do, or I got to go do these 4 phone screens, right? It's not like my goals have moved around or my targets or deadlines have changed. And I would argue that the people that you have handing out the uniform, deciding who gets in the door to join the team, those are some of the most important people you have in the company, and the role they are playing is among the most critical you can imagine. And unfortunately, when you're scaling really fast, and this is a caution to anyone out there who's is going through that scaling phase, do not lose focus on who gets to decide who comes in the door. I'll give you an example. At SendGrid, just this year, we looked at who in our engineering organization, we're scaling out, continuing to scale our engineering team, who gets to decide who comes in? And the answer is we have 33 people. We had 33 people at the beginning of the year who were part of the regular interviewing process. It's now 12. It's now 12 because we said, no, I want, every company's got a bell curve. I want our absolute top performers representing us and deciding the next people to get the uniform are going to raise the bar, not just meet it. And that has a huge impact on continuing to develop the people and culture that you want to have. So as you go back again on this one, I would say go back to your teams tomorrow and ask them, how many people do we have interviewing? Divide by 2. And divide by 2. And figure out if you think that is going to drive you to a better outcome. We also have a thing here where we're focusing on, when it comes to hiring, how many of the people that you're bringing in as you're scaling really fast, how many are the best of those who found you versus you determining, I need this specific skill set with this many years of experience and this kind of a thing, and I'm going to go out to the market and find that person. And they probably already have a job, but I'm going to go find that person and tell them why we would be such a great place for the next step in their career. And I will tell you that when you are going like this and you're hiring a lot, 90% of the time, they will be more of you're taking the best of who found you and knocked on your door versus going out to the market and finding the best talent for exactly what you need. And I would encourage you all to make sure that you turn that dial and switch it. And I'll tell you, we've done the measurement ourselves. We were at that 10%, 90% at the beginning of the year, and we're turning it. We're turning it. So a couple thoughts for you on the people side. This last one may be more controversial, and I'm sure I will come across as like the total downer, Chicken Little, alarmist, no fun. We're at a growth conference. I'm going to leave you one last important bit that I feel very, very strongly about, which is make sure when you go back home tomorrow after this conference, after learning a lot about all the cool ways you can think about growth, to make sure that your organizations will not get burned by your cash burn. And what I mean by that is you can never predict the future, but you can be students of history, right? And it's usually fairly bad to ignore history. And again, these are just averages. I'm an economist by training long years ago. But this economic cycle thing it's fairly well proven out over 150 years. We have these business cycles, and they boom and they bust. They contract and they expand. Always have. And since in the modern post-World War II era, we've actually had 11 of these cycles, up and down. These just happen to be the average numbers for that time period of those 11 cycles. And I'm no mathematician, but that expansion period is 58 months. How many people here in the room were running a business in a leadership position during the 2008-2009 Great Recession? Ooh, less than I would have thought. How many in the 2001 tech bubble burst? Fewer still. Okay, so even more important to remember these. So you just do the math, right? So June 2009 is when the last contraction ended. So roll forward, that's almost, we'll call it 5 years, 58 months, 60 months. Call it 5 years. That would have been summer of 14. Now, they're averages, right? We're also due for the big one, right? The earthquake that's going to drop us all into the ocean. So averages don't tell you anything. I'm not trying to be alarmist of it's going to happen tomorrow. It's just an average. It's just an average. But it's an average that you should think about in terms of a macro context. And whether it happens in 6 months or 12 months or 24 months, I can't tell you. But I can tell you that it will happen. And in a conference is so focused on growth, just be mindful of how much you are spending to chase the growth. Because at some point, the music will stop. History has proven that. And when the music stops, you need to make sure that your company has a chair. And that's just too important to not remember in this context. Now, I'll tell you, we at SendGrid have taken this to heart. You can look at our burn. Left off some of the digits there, but you'll see by quarter, we were in that hitting the accelerator, right? We were spending to go after, if you remember the monetization talk around the LTV folks and the CAC folks, our CAC was going like this, right? And we looked at that macro environment and said, guys, we got to make a change. And it was a hard decision to make that, because getting that slashing of the burn rate that we have now done, which was more than 50% over the last year over year, was hard. It meant a lot of things that we didn't get to do, a lot of hiring that we didn't get to do, a lot of hard negotiations with suppliers and vendors, some perks that we pulled back on, travel that we cut back on. There are lots of hard decisions you have to make. That doesn't just happen. But I'd encourage you all to think about it. And I will also say that for some of the businesses in this room, cutting the burn may be exactly the wrong decision. So these are all local decisions. Like, you're going to have to take the data set of your company, the market you're in, how things are going, the size of the TAM, how well you got the product market fit. And sometimes it is just a land grab. And, go get it all. Great. If you're like, I'm the dominant player in the space and I can go get it, great, go get it. But make sure that it at least is a conscious decision and not simply one where all of us are looking at all the unicorns going, well, they're burning so much cash. Maybe we should be burning so much cash. And then you realize, there's a difference between the unicorns and 98% of all other tech startups. And you can't forget that. So those are some of the lessons we've learned over the last 5 or 6 years. I hope they're helpful. For some of you, as you guys think about scaling your business and gaining traction, we're having the after party tonight that SendGrid is sponsoring. We're celebrating. We shipped a new product today, so come. I promise you will find me at the bar. I will be having a drink and celebrating. We'd love to buy you a drink. Come get a blue t-shirt and hang out with us. Thanks again for having us. Thanks for listening.